military veteran, a woman, terrorized, put her up full mask, by the police. Cops terrorized a black Air Force vet in uniform over a false theft claim. I'm taking you to Texas. Joi Hebron, who has served in the U.S. Air Force for almost 20 years, has filed a lawsuit against the San Antonio Police Department accusing 3 cops of racial profiling. This decorated Air Force vet was held at gunpoint, handcuffed, placed in the back seat of a police car after falsely being accused of stealing her own vehicle. Here are the details. She was pulled over July 15th, 2024, after she left her home early one morning in her 2016 Ford F-150 truck, dressed in her full Air Force uniform, physical training uniform to be exact, on her way to Lackland Air Force Base, where she works as a military training instructor. It was about 4:30 a.m. when she noticed a police car following her, but she did not think much of it since, well, she's not doing anything illegal. But after a few minutes, she noticed that one cop car turned into 3, and they all decided to follow her, which was when she became concerned about her safety. Now, before I continue, I want to remind everyone, she's in full uniform. It's early in the morning. Police officers are well aware of the base, and they have significant investigative tools at their disposal. The cops turned on their emergency lights to pull her over, which, being a law-following person, she did promptly. According to the federal lawsuit, which names the city of San Antonio as a defendant, naming the 3 officers who pulled her over, Robert Garcia, along with 2 other cops identified only by their surnames, Rodriguez and Detch. The cops ordered her out of the car at gunpoint, refusing to tell her why she was pulled over. It was only after they handcuffed her that they told her, quote, her tags came back dirty, end quote, indicated she was driving a stolen vehicle. A boneheaded blunder that could have easily led to her death. One cop placed her in the back of a patrol car while the other 2 searched her truck. No consent and no warrant. Now, remember, this is an accusation, even though it is a false accusation. It is an accusation. So let's call her the accused, if you want to utilize that word. The accused, well, they still have rights. As a matter of fact, the reason why you're called accused and not guilty is because you retain the rights you already have. They have not been stripped from you. And in order for some of those rights to be stripped from you prior to a conviction, you must go in front of a judge, present information to that judge, and that judge says, this information is worthy of a warrant because you are being deprived to some degree of possessions, liberty. There's more. It was only after Officer Rodriguez was sitting in the driver's seat of the patrol car that he began typing her information into a computer. Well, wait a minute. You would imagine this has already happened. It was only when he was sitting in the driver's seat of the patrol car that he began typing her information into a computer, and he realized they have made a huge mistake. Without saying anything to the Air Force veteran who was handcuffed in the back of the patrol car, Officer Rodriguez stepped out of his car to talk to another cop, informing the cop of their blunder. After acknowledging their mistake, Rodriguez opened the back seat of the patrol car, telling this officer of the Air Force, quote, "We saw your uniform hanging in the back seat," before releasing her, the claim states. Well, what does that what does that have to do with anything? There's more. More than a year later, this Air Force officer is still affected by having 3 guns pointed at her doing nothing more than commuting to work. Quote, "I'm not a terrorist," she told KSAT TV. Quote, "I'm on U.S. soil. I have on my Air Force PT gear, which had an Air Force emblem on the back of my shirt. Never were the guns lowered. The false detainment still affects her today, but she is now in constant fear of police, has become socially withdrawn, suffering from depression, anxiety, and insomnia." The irony of this, 20 years in service, continuing that service as an instructor. God knows what she has seen. What she has described is post-traumatic stress syndrome, PTSD. However, her PTSD did not come by way of military combat or by some enemy force, but it came by way of the domestic American Police Department. There's more. San Antonio Police. They declined the interview request by local news station, but provided some context. Now, KSATV said it requested the video footage of the detainment, but police denied her request. Denied the request, claiming they were forbidden to do so by who? By the law. No, by the Texas Attorney General. Because of the pending lawsuit, we'll go with that. Since she decided to sue us, enforcing her constitutional rights, we will deprive her of her right of access. That's how we do things in Texas. There is no statute barring the release. As a matter of fact, the statute is congruent with the release of public information. And let's be frank, this is subject to subpoena as well, since there's an active lawsuit, which I'm sure that will be forthcoming. San Antonio Police declined to be interviewed by the local news station, but provided the following statement, denying allegations of racial profiling. Quote, "At this point, there is no indication that the SAPD stop was anything other than human error and not prompted by racial profiling or discrimination. We regret that the person was detained briefly before the error was connected." Well, we got a few questions. What truck was stolen? If it's an error, that means that on record, there's a stolen truck, and the truck at least is an F-150. What F-150 had an APB out, all points bulletin? What APB was reported stolen in that region? What was the color of that APB? You all have not provided the bare essential information. Did you ever get the actual stolen vehicle and the person that did it? Where's the stolen vehicle report that's similar, that one of the cops decided, you know what, I think that's it, and then check later? Also, there's a violation of protocol. You effected a pullover, gun pointing, and an arrest without verifying information. That's a protocol violation all day. And illegally detained another human being. Regardless of the racial profiling element, that's actually not the issue in court. The issue in court is going to be your false detainment of a citizen. All right, we'll bring you updates as they come. Mike, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I mean, immediately my thoughts are just how sloppy this is, right? If you give these people the benefit of the doubt, which I don't want to do, but for the purpose of the conversation, we can, and say that they had as they say, there have been computer license plate reader errors. So they pull somebody over. They should be doing something about those errors and be giving more of a benefit of the doubt if there's precedent for these errors to begin with. Then they pull her over. let's say that they want to detain her because they are suspect of a stolen truck, which, as you said, Dr. Richey, let's see what happened with that investigation thereafter, right? But they don't have to pull a gun on this woman. They don't have to hold her at gunpoint when she is being A, cooperative, and B, they know already that there are errors that happen with these police license plate readers. They have to give the citizens the benefit of the doubt. And then as far as the video goes, it's absurd. Those videos are a matter of public record. That's
right.
why the public has made police departments throughout the country wear those videos, those cameras on their chests. It's because we want the public record. For them to say we can't release it because it's a part of pending a lawsuit, that's such a wrong-headed excuse. You release it, but the lawsuit can still go on. You get to explain what's on that video in court, but you have to release it. And there are FOIA, I'm sure, requests that can be made by the San Antonio police station there. So that's all of it is so aggravating because they're making excuses when they should not have done this in the first place. Even if they pulled her over, don't pull a gun on a woman who is there by herself and being cooperative. You just don't do that.
Yeah, I'm sure there will be some FOIA requests, additional ones that go forth. And I want to remind everyone in Texas that if you are a member of the media, you have what's called right standing, meaning you can file for the court to tell the attorney general, no, you do not get to stop the release of a statutorily related request because you say so. So you have right standing to do that. I would encourage you to do so. All right, we'll bring you updates, obviously.